whose son are you? Whose son are you? With an opening like that, I've already got the woke police on my case and lost 50% of my congregation. The alternatives to the word son, to include females, don't really help. Whose issue are you? Whose progeny are you? So if every time this morning we say son, you want to mentally say daughter, feel free. But I hope to persuade you that son includes male and female. In our reading from Galatians, Paul clearly says, you are the sons of God. And in the very next verse, he says, male and female. Everyone has the opportunity to be called a child of God, a son and heir to the promises of God. We need to remember our Bible was written not just for us, not just for now. The Bible was written for many generations, many different cultures. The Bible makes it abundantly clear that sons and daughters share the same promise, and hence are all sons and heirs. On a secular level, if I ask that question, whose son are you, it will probably be in one of two contexts. It may be encouraging you to follow in your parents' footsteps and emulate their gift and their service. Or it may be challenging and shaming you, suggesting that your parents would never act like that. And our Bible reading this morning does ask us to investigate what our familial connections mean. When people who know your parents or knew your parents see you, they may well be able to see things in you that confirm you are indeed their son or daughter. I throw in daughter at this stage because we are talking on the physical level. And it may well be physical, it may well be the DNA you share means you are the same shape, the same colour, the same hair colour or lack of hair. Or it may be in mannerisms or speech. Or it may be in talents and gifts. We certainly know that musical parents can pass on the gift to their children. Artistic parents can pass on their gifts. Unfortunately, my children have little expectations in both of those areas, at least from their father. Thomas wanted to see God, and Jesus told him to look at Jesus, to listen to Jesus, to share his life with Jesus, because in doing so, he would see God. One of the reasons I want you to stick with the biblical translation of son rather than get too upset about that is that it appears so often and is so important as we read and study our Bible. Jesus himself is called the Son of Man and the Son of God. And in neither case does this depend upon his gender. Who people are, and especially who people were, was often judged by who are their parents. Jesus himself was dismissed by some as merely being the son of the carpenter. But we know he was much more than that. And even from an early age, he was acknowledging himself as the son of the Lord of the temple, God himself. And those titles, Son of God and Son of Man, are really important. And to see why, we can perhaps look a little bit further. And if you look into the book of the Acts of the Apostles, we come across a chap called Barnabas. Barnabas was a great worker in the early Christian church, and he was given the title Barnabas, Son of Encouragement. He was a man who would encourage everyone. If you want to know about a parent, look at their son. If you want to know what encouragement really is, just look at Barnabas. He's encouragement in a human body. Everything you could want to know about how to be an encourager, just look at Barnabas, and that will give you what you need to know. We say Jesus is the Son of God. Whatever you want to know about Jesus is bound up in, about God is bound up and expressed in the person of Jesus. Philip was told, and we are told, you see Jesus, you see God. You know Jesus, you know God. Jesus is God. Everything we need to know about God is poured into Jesus so that we can see and understand. And Jesus himself took on the title Son of Man. As both God and we look upon Jesus' life, we see poured into him everything that a man should be, everything a person should be. Everything is as God created, and only in Jesus, because the rest of us fall short of that wonderful creation that God gave us. So if you want to know what a man should be, look at Jesus, the Son of Man. If you want to know what God is like, look at Jesus. Especially in other cultures, and not so long ago in ours, the other reason that even those of a female gender want to embrace being sons is because daughters often had less rights of inheritance. Daughters were not heirs in the same way that sons were heirs. Nowadays, we could have a queen in her own right, but that is very recent. Very recent that a woman could become queen, even in an enlightened country like ours. But don't forget, the Bible's not just written for people in England in the 21st century. People all around the world would readily admit that women are not heirs to the promises. But the Bible says, you are all, and notice that was the beginning of our reading, you are all sons of God, and hence heirs to everything that he has promised. Nowhere can anyone in the Bible pretend that women are second-class citizens. For God, we are all equal, equally promised and equally responsible. And God calls all of us later in the New Testament to be ambassadors on his behalf. An ambassador is someone who is sent in the name of the country and with the full authority to negotiate and to deal. And Jesus has lifted us up to be his ambassadors in this world. So what are we ambassadors for? What is it we're asked to take out into the world? The rest of our reading gives us a wonderful summary. And we'll do it in one verse. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except by me. Look at any of the world religions, any of the sects, any of the divisions within the Christian church, and everything that is being taught and sought is summed up in this verse. Many religions see life as a journey that you have to go on, ever upward, ever learning, ever moving towards God. Jesus said, I am the way. You don't have to go any further, and yet it's a lifetime to go deeper and onward with him. Not a program or a course, not something that can take 70 years, although it can. It can be done in a heartbeat. Come to Jesus because he says, I am the way. Every religion, every sect, every church claims to know the truth. The truth is that one thing that shines out of everything. What we believe, the truth. Even the cleverest person amongst us would struggle to get through even the many claims of knowing the truth in a Christian church, let alone of all the religions of the world. Conflicting claims. But Jesus solves the problem. Come to me. I embody everything that you need to know, everything that is really true, everything that can't be questioned, because he is the truth. And any religion that points to anything other than the person of Jesus cannot give you the truth. And what's the point of religion anyway? Surely religion at its fundamental level asks why we're here. What's the meaning of life? What must we do to fulfill our role, to be part of this huge cosmos, everything that exists? What is life? What's it all about? And again, Jesus says, living with me is what life is all about. You want to know what life is? Come, I'll give it to you in its fullness. A life of abundance. And all those things were preceded by Jesus saying, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. Remember back when Moses said to God, who shall I say sent me? He said, I am who I am. And Jesus is taking that Godhead with him when he says, I am all these things. I am everything you will ever need. I am the answer to every question that there could possibly be. I am the perfect embodiment of what God is. And in case there was any doubt, he says that that perfect embodiment of God is the only way. So the first question we must answer this morning is, are we fully accepting the love of God, that he will make us his sons and heirs? How this happens is different for everyone because God calls us each by name and deals with us differently. And yet, how it happens is the same for everyone. Because we all have to come to that point of acknowledging Jesus as our God. The psalmist, as we began our service this morning, said, as we must all say, you are my God. When we say, you are my God, as Thomas did a little later on in our reading of the Gospels, Jesus says, you are my son. And the second question perhaps asked of us by those in the world around us is, whose son are you? Can I see anything of God in you? It's a challenge to us, isn't it? Does the world see God in us? If we are truly his sons, if we are truly one with him, the challenge is that we need others to see that. Jesus said, if you love me, obey my commandments and do the work of the Father who sent me. Does our life, does our church show the love of Jesus? That people will say they are indeed sons of God. Are we worthy to be God's representatives, his ambassadors? Do we speak firmly with the authority and privilege of knowing that we are his sons? God sent his son, his true son, into the world knowing that the world was going to reject him. And it's because he was willing to send his son, the total embodiment of himself, that we have the gospel. God sends us as his sons too, simply to point the way to him who says, I am the truth, I am the life, I'm the way you should be going. And the only way is through the person of Jesus. He's wanting to say to each of us today, you are truly a son of God. Share his promise with our needy world. Shall we sing as we bring our service to a close? After we've sung